Leader, third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, in 2016, the BC NDP concluded that plans for an $11.4 billion LNG terminal on Honolulu Island would generate an unacceptable increase in the province's greenhouse gas emissions. They filed a definitive position against the project with federal environmental authorities. The NDP noted in their letter to the Canadian Environmental Assessment Agency that the project would increase the province's entire carbon footprint for industry, transport, and residential activity combined by 8.5%. And this is what they said in the letter. The proposal fails to meet the condition of air, land, and water protection with respect to both the threat to marine habitat and species, as well as to climate, through an unacceptable high and inadequately regulated greenhouse gas emissions. Here's the kicker, Honourable Speaker. The unacceptably high emissions cited by the letter are in fact lower than the emissions anticipated from the LNG Canada project announced today. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Deputy Premier, how does the Deputy Premier reconcile her party's sharp opposition to the Lulu terminal development with the present investment in LNG Canada?
Minister of the Environment and Climate Change Strategies.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the Leader of the third party for the question, because it gives us, on this side of the House, an opportunity to talk about our serious approach to climate, approach that stands in stark contrast to that of the previous government. Honourable Speaker, when I talk to British Columbians, they want to be assured.
Members, we shall hear the response. Thank you.
British Columbians want to be assured that as we develop our economy, we do it in a way that's environmentally responsible, protects our air, land, and water, and has a path forward to meet clear climate targets that meet ours and the Canadian government's commitment to the Paris Accord. Honourable Speaker, I will differ with the Leader of the third party a little bit. I will differ with him that the announcement that was made today and the greenhouse gas emissions associated with this development, this final investment decision, are 3.4 megatons, far lower than that associated with the project that the member references. But I will say to the member has been working with me, working with staff in the Climate Action Secretariat to design, review, and provide input into a clean growth strategy that we will release later this fall that will outline a clear path to our legislated emission reduction targets. We are factoring in the emissions from this plant in that plan, and I look forward to continued work with the Leader and his caucus.
Leader, third party, on a supplemental.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. In 2015, the BC Liberals signed a development deal with Pacific Northwest LNG in an attempt to spur the Malaysian-led project to become Canada's first major LNG exporter. The now Minister of Environment was sharply critical of this decision. He said, and I quote, "An economy that isn't built on sound environmental protections that include a solid plan to control, limit, and eventually eliminate greenhouse gas emissions isn't in the economy's interest or in the interest of future generations." The Minister of Energy, Honourable Speaker, took this to another level. She said they put themselves in such a desperate position, they being the Liberals, when it comes to negotiating for LNG, that they had to say yes to any single thing that walked through the door. That's exactly what they have done. This is the big sellout of British Columbia, the words of the Minister of Energy, Mines and Petroleum Resources. But now, Honourable Speaker, the NDP want to take that sellout to a whole new level through exempting LNG Canada from increases in the carbon tax, by eliminating the LNG income tax act while retaining the royalty giveaway, by deferring the PST, by exempting them from the steel tariffs, and by burdening ratepayers with billions of dollars of debt to build Site C to sell LNG Canada power at half the price it costs to produce it. Talk about sellout, Honourable Speaker. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Deputy Premier. How is the development of LNG Canada any different from the BC Liberals' attempt to develop Pacific Northwest LNG? Do you not see the grand hypocrisy of what is unfolding before us today?
Members, Minister of the Environment and Climate Change Strategies.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. There could not be a more different approach to the economy or climate than this government. This government demonstrates every single day and will make absolutely clear this fall when we release a clean growth strategy for a diversified, modern economy that meets emission reduction targets. Full stop. Honourable Speaker, with respect to LNG Canada, we are applying the same conditions that will apply to any industry in British Columbia. An industry that is world-leading in its emission reduction targets to be reviewed periodically can get up to 100% rebate of the incremental carbon tax. A carbon tax, by the way, Honourable Speaker, that the former government had no intention of ever applying again. Honourable Speaker, we will work with the third party. We'll work with the leader of the third party, and the Leaders' Caucus will work with industry.
Members, we shall hear the response.
With British Columbians to ensure that we meet our targets and we diversify and create a modern, sustaining economy for all British Columbians, for First Nations, for every region of this province, while we protect the environment and while we meet our climate commitments. Thank you.